cards in matchup, so he's able to maintain the deck's cohesion, which is really nice.
Yeah, one of the things I don't like about those options as well is, when you resort to things like Flusterstorm and basically counterspell measures, you're really just trying to fight them on their own terms. They're like, I'm going to cast a spell on you. You're like, well, I'm going to cast one back. And it's like, no, just ley line them out. Cold them.
Right, yeah, just cold them. So we're going to move over to the Ben Lundquist, Alex Franson match. Both of these players also X and 1. I saw Alex last round in a text feature match and Drew Levin's day, handing him his second loss. He's on green, white, black, junk. Neither Reliquary, Confidant, Deathred Shaman, Tarmogoyf, Thoughtseize, Souls, Vindicate, Plow, Liliana, top. Just all the hits. I would assume quite a favorable matchup against Ben Lundquist and his Merfolk deck, which we've seen on camera already earlier today, and a couple weeks ago at the Atlanta Invitational.
Yeah.
And Lundquist, as expected, quickly down a game to junk.
Yeah, Ben coming off of a strong finish at the Invitational, decided he wanted to play some more Magic, flies out to Milwaukee. Went reasonably deep in the Standard Open yesterday, now back trying to run it in the Legacy, playing the same decks from the Invitational in each.
As if things were not bad enough for Benny Beatdowns, Alex sideboard 3 Diabolic Edict, 2 Pernicious Deed, 4 Engineered Plague.
4 Plague, that's just downright unsporting.
Although Engineered Plague actually isn't at its best against Merfolk, it's much better against decks like Elves, where the creatures are smaller and there's fewer lords. It can even be good against some Storm combo decks that try to empty the Warrens on you. But certainly not bad here because Ben still has to brawl on the ground against Tarmogoyfs and Knights of the Reliquary, so every -1/-1 adds up.
Yeah, and when you can back an Engineered Plague with a little bit of removal to just take care of the first Lord or two, very easy to wind up pushing Ben to the top of the deck where he loses time just trying to find a Lord.
Right. So this matchup is pretty rough, I think. Ben, in his sideboard, has 3 copies of Submerge.
That's a big weapon. It looks like I imagine he'll bring in Jitte as well. And
Relic of Progenitus, I think, is in play here as well because Alex definitely making use of his graveyard between neither Reliquary, Deathred Shaman, and Tarmogoyf.
Yeah. I like Relic pretty reasonable in the matchup. I don't know if you can bring in all 3, but you'll certainly never be unhappy to see 1, maybe even bring in 2. Kira also probably pretty reasonable.
Yes.
Dodges the swords, dodges Vindicate. He doesn't know about the sideboard filled with edicts and plagues, but
he'll find out soon enough, I'm sure.
He probably will. I'm curious what Alex is actually going to wind up siding out. He obviously has a lot of very playable cards in the matchup. Imagine some removal just because he's getting many more efficient ones.
I would never...
Like Liliana's, perhaps?
I think I would probably be cutting Lingering Souls and Dark Confidant if I was Alex. I like Dark Confidant is backed up by a ton of removal, but he's not overloading. He's not bringing paths or whatever. So.
Sure. Turn 1 Curse Catcher for Ben. Get the beat started.
Yep. Curse Catcher not ideal against Alex's deck, of course, but Ben is a big fan of just maintaining pressure.
I was just about to point this out. Turn 1 Deathred Shaman.
Yep.
Blocks Curse Catcher. Another strike. Fortunately for Ben, his deck actually has a number of ways to trump Deathred Shaman via Curse Catcher, namely a Lord. He's going to daze.
Yep. Deathrite, very good against Merfolk on a number of fronts.
The acceleration, I imagine, the primary danger.
And well, actually, all 3 modes are good. So.
Ben has an island, and it looks like another Curse Catcher. Appears to be considering a Relic instead, decides on the Relic.
He has a Silver Gill Adept in hand, so he wants to leave a Merfolk in his hand to reveal.
Right. Looks like he's also rocking a Mutavault. These things are going all right. Tarmogoyf neutered early by that Relic of Progenitus. Ben's obviously going to, he's going to go ahead and start getting use out of it.
Alex seems pretty passionate about his deck by the look of the foil Glyphs and Vindicates.
Yeah, I would say that Alex, probably put some effort into putting this one together. I'm sure that those Black Border duels are in the mail.
Perhaps something to spend if he wins the tournament.
Get a couple with that. He's going to go ahead and send in the Curse Catcher. He has Relic, of course, to make it lethal should Tarmogoyf block. Alex wisely does not. Silver Gill Adept, the linchpin of the Merfolk deck.
Neil Milligan. Neil Milligan, could you please come up to the front stage, please?
Ben main phasing his relic.
Wasteland on Mutavault. And Alex passes. Interesting. I mean, he can't really block. So I feel like he should have probably just chipped in for a shot there.
Well, I think he has Plow in hand.
So he's hoping to block and force an early relic pop?
Maybe.
The danger there being, you know, if Ben has his own response, you know, a submerge or something like that, you can just wind up further behind.
Yeah.
Also, if Ben had just untapped and played a Lord, it would kind of just not work that well. Maybe okay. I guess he would have had to attack very differently, though. He does have the one to pay for Curse Catcher, at least.
I feel like you kind of just have to let this go through. I don't know if you want to just fight this fight right now.
Ben does have the Submerge, I just saw in his hand, shuffling around, so Alex clearly considering, you know, if I block, will he pop that relic? So Ben can also play around a trick in that fashion by simply allowing damage to happen, losing his Merfolk, and then popping the relic once the Tarmogoyf just has damage on him.
Okay, so he blocked the Curse Catcher.
Yep, and that's exactly what Ben's going to do now. He's playing around the possibility of a trick, guaranteeing the Tarmogoyf dies to the static damage Alex cannot possibly heal. And then we see the second Curse Catcher.
Pretty solid turn there for Ben.
Yep. I'm usually all right trading a mana and a Curse Catcher for a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Swords of Plowshares. I imagine it's targeting.
No, I think
went for the Curse Catcher. Okay.
Alex has a bunch of Vindicates and Lingering Souls in hand, so the Curse Catcher is actually
the more
dangerous. Matters right now.
Yep. You're right. I see at least a Vindicate. I see 2 Vindicates and a Lingering Souls. So yeah, you definitely had to go for that one.
Because the Lingering Souls resolves, you don't care that much about the Silver Girl Adept.
But Curse Catcher will very happily trade for the front end of the Lingering Souls.
Yep. And this is actually a spot Alex has set up where Engineer Plague would actually be devastating.
He's going to go for a Vindicate?
I don't know if we're going after Mutavault or what, but it's getting dazed in any case.
Yeah. I imagine he was probably going for that, but I mean, obviously, you know, I'm not certain. Feels like if he can force Ben into the spot where he has to start spending mana to get in damage, it's not that bad, especially considering how strong his hand is going long.
Yep.
Obviously, playing Lingering Souls as a defense is not that great when you know your opponent could simply untap, play a Lord, and all of a sudden you can't really block very well anymore.
Deathrite Shaman. I assume Alex here has to cast one of his 3s.
Yeah. He theoretically has the option of going Shaman Edict.
Oh yeah, Shaman Diabolic Edict is a nice turn.
It's going to leave him in an awkward position next turn, however, when he has, you know, Shaman and 3 lands. He needs to draw a land, activate Shaman, or, you know...
I suspect that he's just going to get submerged here. I don't even think he's going to get that shot.
I mean, yeah. I would assume the same. Then there's Lord of Atlantis. Attacks.
Can't imagine it's going to get... You know, Ben can stick a vial here and submerge.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. Looks like he's going to stick the vial and pass.
Okay. He's going to let it go.
Alex did find a land, so he can activate a Shaman this turn.
I believe if Ben was able to look at Alex's hand, he would have fired off that submerge. Obviously, he's not learning that information.
I agree with you. So Alex has the ability to activate Shaman and play Vindicate or Lingering Souls this turn, or he could just play in flashback Lingering Souls as well. Those are his options. I'm thinking, you know, Vindicate that Lord of Atlantis and have Deathrite Shaman up seems like the more likely of the two.
I think Souls probably does more to constrict the attacks.
Maybe, I don't know. It feels like you're very vulnerable to a second Lord if that happens.
Oh, he's very vulnerable to a second Lord no matter what. I think.
Sure, yeah.
In any case, So far we see 2 Lingering Souls.
It's going to go ahead and activate now to flash back.
Yep.
Okay. I think the flashing back is better than activating Deathrite Shaman.
Yep.
For a non-mana purpose. Another Silvergill add up for Ben.
So I assume Ben is going to send in not Lord of Atlantis, but Mutavault and Silvergill Adept. There's not a clean block here because he has 5 points of toughness against 4 points of power on the board.
Yeah, I think I prefer... I mean, he can send this one in and that protects his Submerge. If he sends in the Lord... Yeah, I guess if he sends in the Lord, it's just pretty mediocre, actually, in general. Yeah, you're right.
Because he can put, 3 in front of the Lord and 1 in front of Silvergill Adept or something like that.
Yeah. Looks like Alex is blocking... not actually sure how.
Yeah.
Is that all 3 on Silvergill Adept? Is that what he's doing?
Maybe he has a sense that Submerge is in the picture.
Maybe.
Although Submerge is still bad because the Deathbright gets submerged.
Yeah. He's blocking Mutavault. Our director's confirming that the 3 spirits are blocking Mutavault.
Okay, so I suspect we're going to see Submerge here. This is a pretty good spot for it. Yep.
Yeah, Ben chooses to let it go.
Sure.
I would assume we're now going to submerge that Shaman then, if that's the case, right? You have to feel pretty good here.
Yeah, I mean...
No?
Well, he doesn't have to do it right away. He can still try to basically constrict Alex on his turn. So we're going to see Vindicate here. I'm assuming on Lord of Atlantis.
Yep. And top. That'll limit the efficacy of the Submerge.
Yep. I'm not quite sure what Ben is playing around here, but certainly there have been a couple opportune times in the last few turns to stick a Submerge.
Yeah, definitely. Probably just, maybe depending on how the first game went, perhaps a Knight of Ochre or Tarmogoyf just like ruined his day, and he wants to hold it for one of those, thinks he can just grind his way through everything else. Now without a Lord of Atlantis, though, we're seeing that that's not actually the case.
Yep. There's a big risk now. Now Alex's engineered plagues, 4 of them are all devastating, and he has a lot of time to find it with Divining Top.
He's also able to, get off of that 5 life with Deathrite Shaman, just activating to gain 2 a turn. I saw a Plains atop, and I'm not sure what the other card there was.
Fetch land.
Fetch land, okay. He's going to fetch to change things up.
Slight delay here momentarily.
Ben considering submerging to kill one of Alex's creatures in response to the fetch land.
Saying, okay, go for it.
Pause a little dangerous there. Could be a telltale for Alex that Ben definitely has a submerge. Obviously, we were debating whether he actually, considering playing.
For Ben, he could also be pausing about Stifle there, so it's not necessarily a dead giveaway, but yeah.
Puts it definitely on Alex's radar if he's familiar with the matchup.
It's going to spin again with the top.
I think I saw a Deathrite Shaman, I don't know what else. Seems to appear a little satisfied with it. It took a little while, decided on him. He's popping. That implies one of those cards is very good. Ben can also submerge here to prevent that draw for a turn, but I don't think that's a great use. Liliana, okay, that's not so bad.
So that's going to stick as Benny's hand is just submerge and an island, I believe.
Neg 2 to kill an adept. Ben's debating, it appears, whether to take his vials. Decides to take the one on the left and the one on the right, but goes with the slightly more efficient dice change-up. Sending the adept.
Looks like he's just drawn a lord here.
Yeah. I assume Alex is going to put together that information as well. Master of the Pearl Trident, if I'm not mistaken. Indeed.
Are we going to snap off this submerge now?
I'm snapping off this submerge. What else could we
It also prevents him from redrawing the top.
Yeah, prevents him from redrawing top. It also means the Deathrite Shaman can't gain him on the 2 life. He just has to block with Deathrite Shaman next turn if he does that, right?
Yeah. Ben being incredibly patient with this submerge. I would have played it like 5 times in a row now. I definitely defer to Ben's wisdom with this archetype. So
I know talking with CVM when he and BBD were testing this matchup, the matchup against Ben for the Invitational top 8, he actually noted that he did not feel he was nearly as competent as Ben likely is playing the deck. He was impressed with its levels and complexity.
So we just went for Liliana, a +1 on Liliana. In response, Ben uses the submerge. The submerge draws a concession.
Okay, well, looks like Alex conceded a little early there. I guess he knows his next few cards off the top are just not going to do the trick. Yeah. Although with the Liliana on too, Ben has to attack. I assume Ben attacks Alex to force the chump with Deathrite Shaman, but then your Liliana's on neg 2. You can kill one of those guys, so those cards must have been real stinkers.
Yeah. Anywho, going to a third game now. Ben, these grindy removal matchups, I've watched Ben play quite a bit, and it definitely feels like he's behind 75 cards to 75 cards, but he's been very proficient at giving himself the best shot to win.
Yeah, it certainly worked out in that game. Who knows? Maybe our aggressive submerge play would have lost each of us that game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, definitely deferring to Ben here on this one. There was the one turn where if Ben knows his hand, I'm pretty sure, he goes for it, and that distorts our feedback. If you know your opponent's hand is Vindicate and Lingering Souls and 3 lands in play, just play Deathrite Shaman. It's insane to submerge there.
Obviously very easy to make it look good. The only turn where it seemed like, that turn he decided to submerge after passing in response to Liliana, and I might have just done it before, because your opponent has no cards in hand, the Liliana's going to +1 anyway, clearly. There's just nothing else doing, really.
Right, and leaving the Deathrite active for a turn means he might make mana or he might gain life if he doesn't have enough to do with his mana, and all those are considerations. But like I said, I will defer to the Merfolk Master here. What is nice for Ben, in contrast to the top 8 match I saw him lost to Brian Wandwin in the Invitational, and the match that he was on earlier today and lost, is the absence of Stoneforge Mystic from Alex's deck.
Sure.
Stoneforge Mystic really distorts the matchup from the Merfolk perspective. You have to leave in Force of Will in an attrition matchup, which is a disaster. You had to contort your play and your sideboarding in so many different ways, because Stoneforge is basically 2 mana, they win the game if you don't have very specific things going on. The fact that Alex is fighting him semi-honestly gives Ben a lot more game.
Yeah. Obviously, Jitte and Batterskull are both pretty reasonable weapons in the matchup. Jitte, pretty big deal. Batterskull, slightly less problematic, but significantly more impressive a lot of the time.
Yes. So going to a third game here. Ben able to successfully avoid any of the engineered plagues. There were numerous turns there where engineered plague would have been lights out.
It would have been real good. Of course, we also saw spots where it would have been, relatively mediocre, like once a Lord was in play and Alex didn't have a way to remove that, the plague would have just been a shrinker. So it's a double-edged sword a little bit there.
The last turn of the game, it would have actually not saved Alex.
Right.
But there were a couple turns there where, you know, Ben's board is 2 copies of Silvergill Adept, and it's just game over.
Yeah. Silvergill Adept is a sweet Magic the Gathering card.
And this is, for Benny, yesterday, lost his play-in for top 8 to our eventual Standard Open champion. So trying to avoid back-to-back losing the win-in-ins. Assuming he can draw next round, which seems likely.
Yeah, again, as we've discussed, X1 usually pretty good in a field of this size going into that last round.
It's going to start on the play here. Both players keep.
Turn 1 fetch for Alex. I generally assume, yeah, Deathrite Shaman or top, or I guess Thoughtseize also a possibility.
Yep.
Not really sure if he actually kept those in. I think most people would.
And turn 1 Vial from Ben.
I like Ben's turn 1 a lot more than Alex's.
Yep. It's incumbent on Ben to put a lot of pressure on him. You can't just let Alex sit around spinning his top all day long, because the extent to which his draw improves and finds his sideboarded haymakers goes way up. So
yep.
He's going to have to pressure Alex very early on in the game.
Alex's hand appears to be stacked with fatties as opposed to removal spells, which makes the Wasteland a little more awkward. He wants to get to 3 mana in order to play that Knight of the Reliquary before he starts considering wasting Ben down.
Yep.
Of course, Wasteland against an Aether Vial is an awkward proposition in and of itself.
Alex, I assume, is going to be running out of Tarmogoyf here.
Seems like a good bet.
And Ben's actually probably okay with this start.
Yeah. We already know he has access to Relic of Progenitus, especially against these cards. That seems pretty good. He has his Dismember in his hand. He has 2 copies of that card, I believe. Yes? No, 3 between main and side. Wow.
He has no second land, which means we might be firing off this Wasteland here. I don't know if we would rather do that or cast Knight of the Reliquary. Ben does have Dismember in hand, so if Alex goes for Knight of the Reliquary here, which is a pretty attractive proposition when your opponent's stuck on 1 land,
yeah,
there can be a huge tempo swinging here because Ben can simply Dismember it.
I imagine that's what's going to happen.
Ben will take a point of damage from the Tarmogoyf.
He's going to probably, I assume, play the Knight first.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to Dismember right now.
Sure, but I mean, you know, he would, if Ben had a Force of Will or whatever. Just worth noting, the pre-combat spells for Tarmogoyf, that interaction is nice. Oh, it looks like Ben...
Dismember takes care of the Knight of the Reliquary.
It looks like Alex, I guess, passed the turn.
Yep.
Without a...
Ooh, and there's a Relic for Ben, too, which is another pretty excellent draw.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Ben's still looking for that land, and then there's the island. And I know that island is, all of his other ones are like unglued or unhinged or whatever. Someone was trying to convince him to play only 19 lands, so that island is the extra island in the deck.
Okay.
So it's been verified as being good right there.
Yep, right there. We have proof. Standstill Aether Vial, also verifiable as good.
That is a combo.
Indeed.
That's a combo.
Obviously, Ben probably wishes he could have that Relic in play as well, to ensure Tarmogoyf shrinks down, but I think he feels okay about it.
Alex has to break the standstill, though.
Yeah.
Ben's Vial's on 2. It's going to get... Alex is quickly going to get overwhelmed on the board. I know Goyf's big, but what Ben's about to be making him a little bit bigger.
Looks like he's just going to go for the 2 and let it go. I assume that means he's planning to Vial an Image on Adept as opposed to a Lord.
I think he's going to put Image on Tarmogoyf and block.
Oh, do you?
That is what I suspect.
That's a nice play as well.
Then Alex has no choice but to break the standstill. He's he's not ahead on board at all anymore.
Ben appears to be at a minimum considering that option, and yeah.
Yep.
He does indeed copy. Phantasmal Image's drawback mitigated by the standstill significantly, in that, you know, if your opponent's not Maze of Ithing or Tower of Magistrate or something like.
I mean, at this point, it's
break or bust.
Yeah. Well, the alarm has to be going off for Alex right now. You're behind on board. It's only going to get worse from here. You just have to break the standstill and move your board forward. You don't have a choice.
I remember the standstill wars of old. It would be very common to let your opponent, get to 7 cards before you break it. Try and make them use the cleanup step to bring down their cards. But Merfolk is not a deck that strategy ever works against, because the Merfolk deck is never going to get to 7 cards.
It's going to top.
Doesn't want to. You can tell he's agonizing over it.
Yeah, I know it sucks, Alex, but you gotta eat this one.
Another relic, a Master of the Pearl Trident, and another Aether Vial. Those weren't even that good.
Nope. Ben could really use a second land. That's the big one.
Second land, Submerge, also a very live draw.
Oh, Submerge would be excellent here. It's a Mutavault.
There's the second land.
Not ideal because it's wastelandable, but at least allows him to play Relic and a second Vial. Sends in with both. Not sure how big the Goyf is.
Well, we've got a enchantment land, instant, creature. I don't think we have a sorcery, so I assume 4 or 5?
Maybe we can get a spotter on that. Get confirmation on size.
We have an attack for 7 here with the Master of the Pearl Trident joining the party. The relic you predicted coming down. Ben can leave a mana up here to shrink everything if he wants, or he can play the Vial. Those are his 2 options. It looks like he's going to go for the shrink play.
Sure.
Or at least wants to keep the option available to himself.
Yeah, I guess he's not anticipating the game going on long enough where the second Vial is actually going to trigger. Takes the hit.
Willing to take the hit. Probably just doesn't want to, let Alex get the mana out of Deathrite Shaman at all this turn. I mean, or any use, I should say.
Yeah.
Obviously, Alex needs his graveyard for pretty much all the cards he has in play right now. Getting our Tarmogoyf die in place. 4/5 in fact.
Legacy players, that is time in the round. Time in the round, Legacy players. End the current turn and begin the additional 5-turn extension.
Going to crack the fetch line. He's aware of the contents from the top, so he might be looking for another shuffle here.
Yeah.
And Alex in this game had a good opening hand, but he needs the removal and discard a lot too. He can't just curve out into creatures. That's a type of fight that Ben's very well equipped to play.
It's one of the things I've never really liked too much about the junk deck is it really tries too hard to put together a few pieces to do something not that impressive. Like if I'm going to put together a few pieces, I want to be like attacking with an Emrakul.
Yep. So we just blind draw with top here.
Pernicious Deed. That one's not so bad.
No, it is not.
Looks like Ben's gonna go for some kind of interaction here. He's gonna pop. A Daze or a Force of Will would both be good. I assume he boarded out his Force of Wills, and he already has a Daze. Note that the Relic pop here keeps Alex from being able to use Deathrite Shaman for mana to pop the Deed after he pays for Daze.
So
Players in standard.
Alex in a bit of agony over that.
Yeah. We could have made a mana with Deathrite preemptively, correct?
In response to the Relic, right.
Yeah.
And deciding not to do that cost him. Ben capitalizing there.
Yep.
Standard sections. Players in.
That would have been a pretty huge swing.
Yes. Not being able to deed this turn is a huge deal.
Alex would have gone to, well, actually, assuming the deed had resolved, his plan was to wind up with, 4 lands against Ben's single island after wastelanding post-deed, but instead he wound up with the board largely unchanged.
Yep. I mean, the deed still represents a pretty big problem for Ben. It's not...
Ben just does still get to eke a little bit of value out first.
Yes.
Replays his island. Looks like I think he did change up islands there, though.
Yes.
Apparently Alex has communicated to us through the spotter that he just punted. He wanted us to know, but I assume he's referring to the mana making with Deathred Shaman, so we're already aware of
We're already
that
on
option.
it.
Ben does not want to commit more to the board, so he's just going to animate Mutavault and start cracking lacking. I imagine he expects to lose the Mutavault to Wasteland relatively soon anyway. If Alex wants to do it in combat now, he's going to have to boost that Phantasmal Image Tarmogoyf.
Right, this attack is for lethal, so Deathrite Shaman has to block.
Rightio.
It doesn't have to, I guess, but should, because the attack is for lethal.
It is, in fact, exactly lethal. No Aether Vial involved. Yep, we're resetting our Tarmogoyf to 2/3, as we knew. He's going to go ahead and Lord of Atlantis. Assume the Deathrite Shaman blocked Silvergill Adept, as that was the largest creature at the time.
Knocks him to 2.
Yep. Now he has to pop Deed. Ben has a chump blocker for Tarmogoyf to avoid going too low on life.
Yep, he's going to block. The reason he filed out that Lord of Atlantis was he's pretty much committed to blocking anyway. Chump blocking anyway because his hand's so loaded with creatures.
So he might as well just get in the extra point of damage in the meantime as well.
Right.
And now that he has a second island hooked up, he can untap, play Silvergill Adept, work on rebuilding the board.
Yep. Although worth noting, Engineer Plague still a huge draw for Alex.
Yep. Deathrite Shaman also very important to stick. Gaining a little bit of life will go a long way towards keeping him from dying to a couple attacks. And Ben's gonna... Not sure. He's checking a few things. He wants to know how many creatures are still in the graveyards, I imagine. Spell's also relevant. Ben is at 9 life. He took some hits from that Tarmogoyf.
Yep.
Plus his own Dismember did a fair bit of that damage.
So I think Ben is debating between casting a Silvergill Adept or playing a Vial and a Relic. He's going to go with Adept. Reveals another Adept. Draws an island.
Yep. Personally, hate it when they do that. Play Adept, revealing Adept. It's demoralizing.
Draws Diabolic Edict.
He's probably just going to fire that one, yeah. He doesn't have any blockers, just wants to buy some breathing room, heal 2 damage a turn for a little while, top his way to more threats.
Passes the turn. He has Mirror Regery in hand too, which is
nice
quite powerful here potentially as well.
Ben plays Relic. He knows that he can Relic his own graveyard in response to Alex trying to remove creatures from that, which will keep Alex from getting 2 life. Ben already fanning his graveyard, offering the option to bait Alex into taking one of his own creatures. Does Alex wisely choose his own Tarmogoyf? No, he does not. He went for one of those.
Yep. Then he beat down, showing all the tricks.
Yeah.
No stone left unturned. An attempt to eke out a little value.
I mean, it worked out there for him.
And there's neither Reliquary.
It's a big man. Mirror Regery, however, capable of wrangling him, shall we say. Now that he can keep an extra land up, he can actually just pop the Relic in response to any such attempts, keeping Alex stuck. Well, Alex has gone up to 4. Did we... I'm not exactly sure. We're getting a double check on the life totals. Perhaps there was a confusion over what happened during the instep with our spotter. There should be a Tarmogoyf and a Deathrite Shaman still in Alex's graveyard, if I'm not mistaken, which means there shouldn't be a gain of 2 life.
Yep. On top. Looks like another Pernicious Deed on the top there. Not sure if Alex is actually at 2 here, then obviously he's compelled to block. And Relic can shrink down the knight.
Yep. Yeah, we have a confirmation that Alex should still be at 2. So in that case, he kind of has to block the silver guy.
Oh, yeah. Now the Reliquary allows him to trade.
Yep. Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does go ahead and block and trades. I assume he only had 1 land in the graveyard at this point. I can't actually verify that, but...
Falls to 1.
Curious line here.
He might need another reshuffle with the top.
Yeah, maybe he wanted the top card so he couldn't crack his fetch. I assume that was the deed we saw that he's probably got. So he couldn't save his knight and keep the top card. Heavy sacrifice for the Pernicious Deed, but you do what you gotta do.
The time has been called in the round a while ago. So
we might not need those turns though, at this rate.
I'm saying these two are approaching time.
Yeah.
There's an attack from Deathrite Shaman.
I think he's activating for mana, I assume,
okay.
and Ben's going to counter that by popping the relic and drawing. Alex, no doubt, eager to verify that he hadn't messed anything up. Well, now that he can't make 6 mana, he can't deed for enough to kill that guy anyway. He just has to look for something else.
There's a plow on top.
Well, we're popping top. That's our plan.
And plow on the retreat.
Alex fighting to stay in this one.
Yep.
So far, keeping afloat by the skin of his teeth.
The battle is going to be uphill.
Another relic. Going to cause his Deathrite some more problems. And a Wasteland. I imagine Ben just goes like Lord, Relic this turn. Can't really see any play that looks significantly better. Oh man, I think I might have got one right, Patrick. I'm excited. I'm excited.
He still might just Wasteland here.
Yes, I got a full turn with Merfolk correct. Oh, I've grown so much as a player. Thank you, Ben. It only took a game and a half to teach me my lessons.
And I think we're going to see a daze right here on this Pernicious Deed.
Yep.
And that is going to do it, I believe.
Yeah, there are no lands for Deathrite Shaman to use to make any kind of mana. Alex lets it go instead. Top. All in on the blinds, except I think we knew those.
There it is.
One. Yep.
Wow, many beatdowns.
Living up to his name there, getting in for damage, eked it out against
really tough matchup.
Yeah, clearly. Obviously, Alex,